Captain Tay stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge and watched the massive planet grow larger on the screen. This was it. This was the moment that could change everything for Earth and all of humanity. His hands were steady on the console, but his heart beat faster than usual. "We're approaching the capital planet now, Captain," Hana said from her station. She was his tactical officer and had been with him for 5 years. "They're sending us coordinates for landing," Tay nodded. "Take us in slowly. Let's not give them any reason to think we're a threat." "Woo!" The ship's engineer looked up from his screens. "Captain, I'm reading power signatures down there that make our entire fleet look like toys. These people could destroy us without even trying." "That's exactly why we're here to talk, not fight," Tay replied. The ship descended through the atmosphere. Below them, cities stretched as far as they could see. Towers of crystal and metal reached toward the sky. Ships flew between the buildings like schools of fish. This was the heart of the Valorian Empire, a civilization that controlled 300 star systems. Earth had only 12 colonies, and all of them needed a rare element called Nexium to keep growing. The Valorians had more Nexium than they knew what to do with. Mina, their diplomat, stood beside Tay's chair. She had prepared for this meeting for months. "Remember, Captain, the Empress is over 200 years old. She's seen 1,000 species come and go. We need to impress her." "I know," Tay said quietly. "No pressure at all." The ship landed in a huge port. When the doors opened, Tay saw his first Valorians up close. They were tall, maybe 8 feet high, with scales that shimmered in different colors. Their eyes were large and could move independently. They looked powerful and ancient. A Valorian in golden robes approached. His scales were deep purple and his eyes were cold. "I am Lord Varric, advisor to Empress Kira. You are Captain Tay of Earth?" "Yes, my lord." Tay bowed slightly, the way Mina had taught him. "The Empress will see you alone. Your crew will wait here." Hana stepped forward. "Captain, I don't think—" "It's fine," Tay said. He looked at his crew. "I'll be back soon." Lord Varric led him through corridors that seemed carved from a single giant crystal. Everything glowed with soft light. They passed guards who carried weapons that hummed with energy. Finally, they reached a massive door that opened silently. The throne room was enormous. Hundreds of Valorians stood along the walls, all watching. At the far end, on a throne made of black stone, sat Empress Kira. She was larger than the other Valorians, with scales of deep red and gold. Her eyes were like molten metal, and when she looked at Tay, he felt like she could see every thought in his head. She wore a crown that floated above her head without touching it. "Approach, human," her voice echoed through the room. Tay walked forward. The distance seemed endless. Every eye was on him. Finally, he stood before the throne and bowed deeply. "Your Majesty, I bring greetings from Earth and all humanity. We come seeking trade and friendship." "Yes, yes," the Empress waved a clawed hand. "You want Nexium. Everyone wants something." She leaned forward. "But I want something too." Tay's throat went dry. "What would you ask of us, Majesty?" "You will marry one of my daughters." The room exploded into whispers. Tay felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. "I'd what?" "You heard me correctly." The Empress's expression didn't change. "I have 3 daughters. You will choose one to marry. In return, humanity will receive unlimited Nexium and a military alliance with my empire. Refuse and you leave with nothing." Tay's mind raced. This made no sense. "Majesty, I'm honored, but I don't understand. Why would you want this? That is not your concern. You have my terms." She gestured to Lord Varric. "Show him the princesses. He has 1 month to choose." Lord Varric smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Come, Captain. Meet your future bride." Tay followed in a daze. As they walked, Varric spoke softly. "You should know, human, that many have been offered this choice. All have failed or refused. The princesses are difficult." "What do you mean?" "You'll see soon enough." Varric's smile widened. "I expect you'll be leaving empty-handed, just like the others." They returned to the landing port where Tay's crew waited. As soon as they were back on the ship, Hana grabbed his arm. "What happened?" "You look like you've seen a ghost." Tay sat down heavily. "She wants me to marry one of her daughters." "What?" Mina's eyes went wide. "That's insane." "If I do it, we get everything we came for and more. Military protection, unlimited Nexium, a real alliance." Tay rubbed his face. "If I refuse, we get nothing." Wu shook his head. "Captain, you can't just marry someone you don't know for a trade deal." "It's not just a trade deal," Tay said quietly. Earth has 12 colonies full of people who need Nexium to survive, and the Krill Dominion has been eyeing our systems. Without the Valorian alliance, we're vulnerable. Hana sat down across from him. So what are you going to do? I don't know yet. I have a month to meet these princesses and decide. Tay looked at his crew. Something about this doesn't make sense. Why would the Empress do this? What's really going on here? Mina pulled up information on her tablet. I'm reading about Valorian succession laws. The Empress needs an heir and the heir needs a consort. But I don't understand why she'd choose a human. We're new to the galaxy. We have nothing she needs. Unless, Wu said slowly, she's testing us somehow. Testing what? Hana asked. Tay stood up and looked out at the alien city. I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Tomorrow I meet the princesses. Maybe then this will start to make sense. That night Tay couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Earth, about the colonies, about all the people depending on him. He thought about his family back home, about the future of humanity among the stars. He had come here for a simple trade negotiation. Now he was caught in something much bigger. Outside his window, the alien city glowed in the darkness. Somewhere out there were 3 princesses he'd never met. One of them might become his wife. The thought was terrifying and strange. But if it meant saving Earth, could he really refuse? He'd know soon enough. Tomorrow everything would change. The next morning, Lord Varric arrived at the ship with an escort of guards. He looked pleased with himself, which made Tay nervous. Today you meet the princesses, Varric announced. I've arranged a formal presentation in the palace gardens. All 3 will be there. Mina helped Tay dress in formal clothing that Earth's diplomats had designed. It was supposed to look respectful but also show human culture. Tay felt uncomfortable in it, but Mina assured him it was appropriate. Remember, she whispered before he left, be polite to all of them equally. Don't show favoritism yet. The palace gardens were beautiful beyond description. Plants from hundreds of worlds grew together in perfect harmony. Water flowed in streams that defied gravity, flowing upward into fountains of light. Hundreds of Valorian nobles stood watching as Tay entered. Lord Varric led him to a raised platform where 3 figures waited. Captain Tay of Earth, Varric's voice boomed across the garden. I present the daughters of Empress Kira. The first princess stepped forward, and Tay forgot to breathe. She was the most beautiful being he had ever seen. Her scales shimmered like pearls, shifting through colors he didn't have names for. Her features were perfectly symmetrical, and she moved with grace that made dancing look clumsy. Her eyes were violet, and they looked at him with cool intelligence. I am Princess Yura. Her voice was like music. Welcome to our world, human, Tay bowed. Thank you, Your Highness. I'm honored to meet you. Yura smiled, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. How charming. A human with manners. She looked him up and down. Tell me, Captain, how many languages do you speak? Just 2, Your Highness. English and some Korean. How quaint. I speak 512. She turned away, clearly bored. I suppose you'll do if Mother insists on this farce. Tay felt heat rise to his face. But before he could respond, the second princess approached. She was smaller than Yura, and her scales were an unusual pale color, almost white, where Yura's features were perfect. This princess's face was asymmetrical. One eye was slightly higher than the other, and her movements were hesitant and nervous. By Valorian standards, Tay realized she must be considered ugly. I'm Nari, she said so quietly he almost couldn't hear. She wouldn't look at him directly. It's nice to meet you. It's nice to meet you too, Princess Nari, Tay said gently. Nari glanced at him quickly, then looked away again. Her hands twisted together nervously. I'm sorry about all this. I know it must be strange for you. It's strange for both of us, I think, Tay said, trying to make her smile. Nari did smile, just a little. But then Lord Varric cleared his throat loudly, and she stepped back quickly. Before Tay could say more, a loud voice boomed from behind him. Move aside! Coming through. The third princess didn't walk into the garden. She jumped from a balcony above, landed in a roll, and came up grinning. She was taller than her sisters, with dark green scales and scars visible on her arms and neck. She wore armor instead of formal robes, and she carried 2 swords on her back. So you're the human? She walked around Tay, looking at him like he was an interesting puzzle. You're smaller than I expected. How much can you lift? Have you ever been in real combat? I'm Captain Tay. You must be Princess Kira. I am. And I'm bored with all this formal nonsense. She drew one of her swords in a flash. Fight me! The nobles gasped. Lord Varric stepped forward. Princess, this is completely inappropriate. Everything I do is inappropriate, Varric. That's why you all love me so much. Kira grinned at Tay. Come on, human. Show me what you're made of, or our Earth warriors all talk. Tay looked at the sword, then at Kira's eager face. Something in her eyes made him understand. She was testing him, but not in the way the others thought. I'll fight you, princess, but I should warn you I'll lose badly. Kira's grin widened. Honesty. I like that. At least you're not stupid. She tossed him a practice sword from a nearby rack. Let's see what you've got. They faced each other in the center of the garden. The nobles whispered and pointed. Yura watched with an expression of disgust. Nari looked worried. Kira attacked fast. Tay barely got his sword up in time. She was stronger, faster, and had clearly been training her whole life. Within seconds, she had disarmed him and had her blade at his throat. Dead, she announced. Want to try again? Yes, Tay said, picking up his sword. They fought again. And again. Each time Kira won easily, but each time Tay lasted a little longer. On the fifth bout, he actually managed to block 3 of her strikes before she swept his legs out from under him. Kira stood over him, breathing hard, but smiling. You're terrible at this, but you keep getting up. That's something. She offered him her hand and pulled him to his feet. I respect that. Thank you, Princess, Tay said, catching his breath. Lord Varric clapped his hands. Enough of this display. Captain Tay, you've now met all 3 princesses. Over the next month, you will attend various events to get to know them better. At the end, you will make your choice. Tay looked at the 3 sisters. Yura stood apart, checking her appearance in a mirror. Kira was practicing sword forms, already having forgotten about him. Nari stood quietly in the shade, watching a strange insect crawl on a flower. That evening, back on the ship, Tay's crew wanted to hear everything. The beautiful one sounds terrible, Hana said bluntly after hearing his description of Yura. She's not terrible, Tay corrected. She's just... She made it clear she thinks humans are beneath her. And the wild one tried to kill you, Wu added. She was testing me. I think she respects honesty and courage, even if I'm no match for her in combat. Mina tapped her tablet thoughtfully. And Princess Nari? You didn't say much about her? She was quiet, shy. She seemed uncomfortable with the whole situation. Tay remembered her nervous smile, but she was kind. She apologized for putting me in this position. So what's your plan? Hana asked. Lord Varric is setting up formal events. Dinners, tours, cultural exchanges. I'm supposed to spend time with each of them and make a decision. Tay rubbed his temples. This is insane. How am I supposed to choose a wife based on a month of formal events? Maybe that's not what you're supposed to do, Mina said quietly. Everyone looked at her. What do you mean? Tay asked. The Empress is testing something. She wants to see how you'll handle this. Maybe the answer isn't about choosing at all. Maybe it's about understanding why she's really doing this. Tay thought about this as he lay in bed that night. 3 princesses, 1 beautiful but cold, 1 shy and kind, 1 wild but honest. Why would the Empress force this choice on him? What was he supposed to learn? Tomorrow would bring the first formal event, a state dinner with Princess Yura. Tay knew he needed to look beyond the surface. There had to be more to each of these women than what he'd seen today. The game had begun, but Tay still didn't know the rules. All he could do was play his best and hope he made the right choice. Too much depended on it to fail. The state dinner with Princess Yura was held in the palace's grand hall. Tay wore his formal uniform, which Mina had pressed 3 times to make sure it was perfect. He sat at a long table with Yura at his side and dozens of Valorian nobles watching their every move. Yura was magnificent. She wore a gown that seemed made of starlight, and her scales shimmered perfectly under the lights. She spoke with nobles in their own languages, laughed at the right moments, and commanded the room's attention effortlessly. But Tay noticed something strange. Every 15 minutes, Yura would excuse herself. She would return a few minutes later looking even more perfect than before. During one of these absences, a servant refilled Tay's glass. He noticed the servant glance nervously toward the door Yura had used. Is everything all right? Tay asked quietly. The servant looked startled that he had spoken to her. Yes, my lord. It's just... I worry about the princess. Why? The servant looked around nervously, then whispered, She takes the serums. for perfection, but they hurt her. Before Tay could ask more, Yura returned. This time, Tay watched her hands. They were trembling slightly. She quickly hid them under the table. After dinner, Lord Varric announced entertainment. Dancers performed. Musicians played instruments that created colors as well as sound. Through it all, Yura sat perfectly straight, smiling perfectly, saying perfect things to everyone who approached. Tay saw her wince once, just for a moment when she thought no one was looking. When the event finally ended, Tay caught up with Yura in the hallway. "Princess, may I speak with you privately?" Yura's perfect mask slipped back into place. "Of course, Captain. Though I can't imagine what we have to discuss." They walked to a balcony overlooking the city. Alone, away from the nobles, Yura's shoulders sagged slightly. "Your hands were shaking during dinner," Tay said gently. Yura's eyes flashed with anger. "You were watching that closely? How rude. I'm sorry. But I'm concerned." That servant mentioned serums. For a moment, Tay thought Yura would deny everything. Then slowly she sat down on a bench and the perfect mask cracked. "Perfection serums," she said quietly. "I've been taking them since I was a child. They make me beautiful, graceful, flawless. They also cause pain. Constant pain." She looked at her hands. "But what choice do I have? Beauty is my only value. Without it, I'm nothing." "That's not true," Tay said. Yura laughed bitterly. "Isn't it? You've seen my sisters. Nari is brilliant but ugly. Kira is strong but wild. I have only my appearance. Take that away and what purpose do I serve?" Tay sat beside her. "You speak 500 languages. You commanded that entire room tonight. You're intelligent and skilled. Skills that only matter because of how I look." Yura's voice cracked. "Do you know why suitors keep refusing me? Because they see the truth. I'm a doll, not a person. Beautiful and empty." "I don't think you're empty," Tay said. "I think you're trapped." Yura looked at him with tears in her violet eyes. "Yes, trapped in a prison of perfection. And I don't know how to escape." They sat in silence for a while. Finally, Yura stood. "Thank you for listening, Captain. But nothing changes. I am what I am." She walked away, her perfect posture restored, leaving Tay alone with his thoughts. The next day, Tay visited Princess Nari's laboratories. They were in the lower levels of the palace, far from the beautiful halls above. The corridors here were plain and functional. Nari looked surprised when he arrived. "Captain, what are you doing here?" "Lord Varric said I could visit. I wanted to see what you work on." Nari's pale scales flushed slightly. "It's nothing important. Just research." But as Tay looked around the lab, he saw anything but unimportant work. Screens showed complex equations. Models of molecular structures floated in holographic displays. Energy readings pulsed on monitors. "What is this?" Tay asked, genuinely curious. "A fusion matrix," Nari said quietly. "The Empire has an energy problem. Our current systems waste 70% of the power they generate. I'm designing a new matrix that would increase efficiency to 95%. Tay stared at her. "That's incredible." "This could change everything," Nari shrugged. "No one pays attention to my work. I'm the ugly princess. What could I possibly know?" "You're not ugly," Tay said firmly. Nari smiled sadly. "You're kind to say that. But by Valorian standards, I am. Look at me, my scales are the wrong color. My face is asymmetrical. I'm smaller than I should be. But you're brilliant. Brilliance doesn't matter if no one listens." Nari touched one of her screens. "I've been helping Yura with diplomatic formulas for years. I've given Kira tactical calculations that won her battles. Neither of them knows. I do it in secret because if people knew the ugly princess was helping them, it would make them look weak." Tay looked at the equations on the screens. "I'm an engineer by training. Can you explain how this works?" Nari's eyes lit up. "Really, you want to know?" For the next 2 hours, Nari explained her fusion matrix. She spoke faster when she was excited, her shyness fading away. She showed Tay her calculations and the problems she was trying to solve. She even mentioned that she had read some of Earth's scientific papers. "Human scientists think differently," she said with genuine enthusiasm. "You approach problems from unexpected angles. It's fascinating." When Ty finally had to leave, Nari walked him to the door. "Thank you," she said softly. "No one has ever wanted to understand my work before." "It's amazing work," Tay replied. "You should be proud of it." After Nari, Ty's next scheduled event was with Princess Kira. But instead of a formal dinner, Kira sent him a message. Meet me at the training grounds. Come alone. The training grounds were in a military complex outside the city. When Tay arrived, he found Kira fighting 3 opponents at once. She moved like water, flowing around their attacks and striking with precision. When she finished, her opponents were on the ground, and she wasn't even breathing hard. You came. She tossed Tay a practice sword. Good. Let's talk while we fight. They sparred, though calling it sparring was generous. Kira could have defeated him in seconds, but she held back, letting the fight continue. Why did you accept the duel yesterday? She asked, circling him. Because you wanted to see if I was honest or if I would pretend to be something I'm not. Kira grinned. Smart. Most suitors try to impress me with lies. She struck, and Tay barely blocked. They say they're warriors, then can't hold a sword. They say they're brave, then run from real danger. Why do you fight so much? Tay asked, trying to find an opening that didn't exist. Kira's expression darkened. Because the court won't listen to me any other way. I'm the wild princess, the embarrassment. But I've studied military strategy my whole life. I know things that could save lives, protect the empire. No one cares. She disarmed Tay easily, then helped him up. The Krill Dominion is preparing for war. I've seen their fleet movements. I've analyzed their tactics. I tried to warn the council, but they laughed at me. Silly Kira, playing soldier, they said. You're not playing, Tay said. You're a real strategist. You see that from a few fights? Kira looked at him carefully. I see that you're frustrated because you have knowledge and skill that people dismiss because you don't act the way they expect. Kira was quiet for a moment. Then she laughed, but it wasn't her usual loud laugh. It was softer, sadder. You understand. That's rare. They sat on a bench, and Kira told him about battles she had studied, strategies she had developed, warnings she had tried to give. She spoke with passion and intelligence that the court never saw because they only saw her wildness. That night, Tay told his crew what he had learned. They're all trapped, Mina said thoughtfully. Yura in her beauty, Nari in her appearance, Kira in her reputation. And the Empress knows it, Tay said. This whole test isn't about me choosing. It's about something else. I just need to figure out what. Hana leaned forward. What are you going to do? Tay thought about 3 princesses, each brilliant and valuable in their own way, each one dismissed by the empire they were born to serve. I'm going to find a solution they haven't thought of, he said finally. Because if I just choose one and leave the others behind, nothing really changes. What kind of solution? Wu asked. I don't know yet, but there has to be a better way. Tay stood and looked out at the alien sky. I have 2 weeks left. I'll figure it out. Tay spent the next week thinking. He attended more events with each princess, learning more about them. He saw Yura help a young noble who was nervous about a speech, coaching her with patience and kindness when no one else was watching. He watched Nari solve an engineering problem that had stumped the Empire's best scientists. He listened to Kira explain military tactics with the skill of a master teacher. Each of them was extraordinary. Each of them was trapped by how others saw them. And the more Tay learned, the more convinced he became that choosing just one would be wrong. On the ship, he called his crew together. I need your help with something. Mina pulled up documents on her tablet. I've been researching Valorian succession law like you asked. The Empire requires an heir consort. Traditionally, it's always been one person married to one heir. But the law doesn't specifically say it has to be one heir, does it? Tay asked. Wu looked confused. What are you thinking, Captain? I'm thinking that the Empire's problem isn't that the princesses aren't good enough. It's that they're trying to fit 3 different kinds of excellence into one role. Tay pulled up images of the 3 sisters. What if the solution is to change the role? Hana caught on first. You want all 3 of them to rule? Not exactly. I want to propose a new system. A triumvirate. Each princess leads in her area of strength. Tay pointed to Yura. She handles all diplomatic relations. She's perfect for it. He pointed to Nari. She leads scientific and technological advancement. Finally, Kira. And she commands the military forces. That's brilliant, Mina said slowly. But will the Empress accept it? I don't know. But I think she wants me to come up with something unexpected. Why else would she give this test to a human? Tay stood up. Humanity is new to the galaxy. We don't have their traditions or their assumptions. Maybe that's exactly what she needs. There's still one problem, Wu said. The law requires you to marry one of them. You're proposing to marry Nari, right? Tay nodded. If she'll have me. I've spent time with all three, and Nari is the one I've connected with the most. She's brilliant and kind, but more than that, I want to marry her because I genuinely care about her, not because of politics. That's very romantic, Captain, Hana said with a small smile. But will the Empire see it that way? Choosing the ugly princess when you could have the beautiful one? That's exactly the point, Tay replied. I'm showing them that humanity values substance over surface, that we see worth where they've been taught to see flaws. The next day, Tay requested an audience with Empress Kira. Lord Varric seemed surprised but arranged it quickly. He probably expected Tay to quit, to say the task was impossible and return to Earth with nothing. Tay stood before the throne again. The Empress watched him with those ancient, intelligent eyes. You have 1 week remaining, she said. Have you made your choice? I have a proposal, Your Majesty. One that I hope will solve more than just the succession problem. The Empress leaned forward slightly. Speak. Tay took a deep breath and explained his plan. He talked about the triumvirate system. He explained how each princess's strengths could be used to make the empire stronger. He proposed new positions that would give each daughter real power and respect. Then he said, and I ask for permission to marry Princess Nari, not as a political arrangement, but because I've come to care for her deeply. She's brilliant, kind, and deserves to be seen for who she really is. The court erupted in shocked whispers. Lord Varric stepped forward. This is an outrage. You would choose the ugly one over Princess Yura? You would completely restructure our government for your convenience? Not for my convenience, Tay said firmly. For the good of the Empire. Your current system is wasting the talents of 3 exceptional women. My proposal honors all of them. The Empress held up her hand and silence fell immediately. She studied Tay for a long moment. Your proposal is interesting, she said finally, but words are easy. I need to see if your human wisdom can actually solve real problems. She gestured and a holographic display appeared. It showed a star system with a planet in the center. Around it, hundreds of red dots moved in formation. This is the border world Terran 4. The Krill Dominion's fleet will reach it in 3 days. They have 200 warships. Terran 4 has minimal defenses. If it falls, the Krill will have a foothold in our territory. The Empress looked directly at Tay. You say my daughters are talented? Prove it. Take your ship and my daughters. Save Terran 4. Do this and I will consider your proposal. Fail and you leave with nothing. Tay's heart pounded. 200 warships against 1 small human ship. It was impossible. But then he thought about Nari's brilliant mind, Kira's strategic genius, Yura's diplomatic skills. Maybe it wasn't impossible. Maybe it was exactly the kind of challenge they needed. I accept, he said. Lord Varric laughed. You'll die out there, human. And you'll take the princesses with you. No, a voice said from the side of the throne room. Princess Nari stepped forward. We won't die. We'll succeed. Princess Kira walked in from another entrance. About time things got interesting. I'm in. Finally, Princess Yura entered looking calm and collected. If my sisters are going, I will as well. Someone needs to keep them from causing a diplomatic incident. The 3 princesses stood together for the first time that Tai had seen. They looked at each other, then at him. We'll help you, Captain, Nari said quietly, and you'll help us prove what we can do. The Empress watched this with an expression Tay couldn't read. You have 3 days to reach Terran 4. The fate of your proposal and perhaps the future of the Empire depends on what happens there. Tay bowed. We won't fail, Your Majesty. Back on the horizon's edge, Tay's crew stared at the 3 princesses who had come aboard. This is insane, Hana whispered to Tay. We're a frigate. We can't fight 200 warships. We're not going to fight them head-on, Tay replied. He looked at the princesses. We're going to be smart. They gathered in the conference room. Tay pulled up the tactical display of Terran 4 and the approaching Krill fleet. All right, he said. We have 3 days to figure out how to save this planet. I can't do it alone. I need all of you. Nari stepped forward looking at the display. Her shyness was gone, replaced by focused intensity. If we could disable their weapon systems. Their command structure is centralized, Kira added, pointing to the formation. Take out the flagship and the fleet loses coordination. And if we could get other species involved, Yura said thoughtfully, we could turn this into a coalition rather than a battle. That's exactly what I was thinking, Tay said with a smile. Let's combine all of our strengths. Wu looked at Nari. Princess, Captain Tay told us about your fusion matrix. Could it be weaponized? Nari's eyes widened. Not as a weapon, but as a shield. If I could modify it, we could create an energy pulse that would disable their systems without destroying their ships. I can get us into position, Hana said, but we'll need perfect timing. Leave the timing to me, Kira said confidently. I've studied Krill tactics. I know exactly when they'll be vulnerable. Yura pulled up communication channels. I'll contact species the Krill have threatened. If I can convince them to send even token forces, it will show unity against Krill aggression. For the first time, the three princesses worked together. Nari and Wu went to engineering to build the modified fusion matrix. Kira and Hana analyzed the Krill fleet movements. Yura began sending carefully crafted messages to dozens of species. Tay watched them work and felt hope growing. This could actually work. Not just the mission, but everything. These three women working together were unstoppable. Mina came to stand beside him. You really think the Empress planned this? I think she knew her daughters were special. She just needed someone to help them see it. Tay smiled. And maybe she needed them to see that working together makes them stronger than any of them could be alone. The ship jumped to hyperspace, heading for Terran 4. 3 days to save a planet. 3 days to prove that humanity's wisdom had value. 3 days to change everything. The real test was about to begin. The horizon's edge dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Terran 4 system. On the screens, Tay could see the planet, a peaceful blue and green world with millions of people living on its surface. And approaching from the other side like a dark cloud came the Krill fleet. 217 ships, Hana reported from her station. Confirmed Krill Dominion military vessels. They'll reach Terran 4 in 6 hours. In the engineering bay, Nari and Wu worked frantically on the fusion matrix. Nari's hands moved across the controls with confidence. Gone was the shy, nervous princess. Here in her element, she was brilliant and sure. How's it coming? Tay asked over the comm. Almost ready, Nari replied without looking up. The matrix will generate a massive electromagnetic pulse. It won't destroy their ships, but it will disable their weapon systems and engines temporarily. How temporarily? 15 minutes, maybe 20. Wu added, but we need to be close. Really close. Within the planet's magnetic field for this to work. That means flying right through their fleet, Hana said from the bridge. I know, Tay replied. He looked at Kira, who was studying the tactical displays with intense focus. Can we do it? Kira didn't look up from her screens. Yes, but the timing has to be perfect. The Krill formation has a weak point that opens every 12 minutes when they rotate their command ships. It's only open for 43 seconds. That's not much margin for error, Mina said nervously, which is why we're not going to make any errors. Kira finally looked up, and she was smiling. Trust me, I've fought the Krill before. I know how they think. On another screen, Yura was in the middle of her 10th communication that hour. She spoke to a species called the Bentari, her voice smooth and persuasive. The Krill have threatened your colonies for years, she said. This is your chance to show them that the galaxy will stand united against aggression. Send whatever ships you can spare to Terran 4. Even a small show of force will make a difference. Tay watched her work. She shifted her tone for each species she contacted. For some, she appealed to honor. For others, to self-interest. For others still, to fear of what would happen if the Krill weren't stopped. She was masterful. After 3 hours of constant communication, Yura finally sat back. Done. We have commitments from 11 different species. 34 ships total. That's still nothing compared to 200 Krill warships, Hana pointed out. It's not about matching their numbers, Yura explained. It's about showing unity. The Krill expect to fight one isolated planet. Instead, they'll see a coalition. It will make them hesitate. And hesitation is all we need, Kira added. Give me 1 moment of hesitation and I can exploit it. The hours ticked by. The crew ran simulations of the plan. Nari finished the fusion matrix modifications. Wu integrated it into the ship's systems. Kira memorized every detail of the Krill fleet formation. Yura continued sending messages to the arriving coalition ships, coordinating their positions. Tai watched his crew and the 3 princesses work together. Mina helped Yura with translation protocols. Hana and Kira analyzed tactics together. Wu learned from Nari's engineering brilliance. They had become a real team. Finally, the Krill fleet was an hour away from Terran 4. Coalition ships are in position, Yura reported. They're staying back like we planned, forming a perimeter. Fusion matrix is ready, Nari said. Her voice was steady, but Tay could see her hands shaking slightly. Not from fear, he realized. From excitement. Terran 4 has been evacuated to underground shelters, Mina added. They're as safe as they can be. Tay stood up. All right, everyone, this is it. Hana, take us in. The horizon's edge accelerated toward the Krill fleet. On the screens, the massive warships grew larger and larger. Each one was 10 times the size of Tay's small frigate. They're hailing us, Mina said. Put them through. A Krill commander appeared on screen. He looked like a giant insect with multiple eyes and clicking mandibles. Human vessel. You are in Krill Dominion space. Leave immediately or be destroyed. This isn't your space, Tay replied calmly. Terran 4 is under Valorian protection, and as you can see, they're not alone. The Krill commander's multiple eyes shifted to look at the coalition ships forming around the planet. For a moment, he seemed surprised. A few dozen ships mean nothing. We will crush you all. Maybe, Tay said. But it won't be the easy victory you expected. Is this planet really worth starting a war with a dozen species? The commander's mandibles clicked angrily. You dare threaten us? I'm not threatening. I'm stating facts. Tay kept his voice level. You can attack and win, but at what cost? How many ships will you lose? How many species will you make into permanent enemies? The Krill commander cut the communication. They're moving to attack formation, Hana reported. Kira, is the gap opening? Tay asked. Kira watched her screens with total focus. 30 seconds. Get ready. The Krill fleet began to spread out surrounding the planet. Their weapons powered up, glowing red in the darkness of space. 20 seconds. The coalition ships held their positions. Tay could imagine the captains on those ships watching the Krill fleet, wondering if they had made a terrible mistake. 10 seconds. Get ready, Hana. Hana's hands moved over her controls. Ready. 5 at 4 and a 3, 2. Now. The horizon's edge shot forward at maximum speed. It dove between 2 Krill battleships, threading through the gap in their formation. Weapons fire erupted around them. The ship shook as near misses rattled the hull. Almost there, Hana shouted, her hands dancing over the controls as she dodged and weaved through the enemy fleet. They burst through the formation and raced toward Terran 4. The planet's magnetic field reached out to meet them. We're in position. Wu called from engineering. Nari now, Tay ordered. Nari activated the modified fusion matrix. The ship's entire energy system channeled into the device. It pulsed once, twice, 3 times, and then released. A wave of electromagnetic energy exploded outward from the horizon's edge. It rippled through the planet's magnetic field, amplifying and spreading. The wave washed over the Krill fleet like an invisible tsunami. Every Krill ship went dark. Their engines cut out. Their weapons powered down. 200 warships became 200 pieces of floating metal. It worked, Wu shouted, but Tay wasn't celebrating yet. Kira, what are the coalition ships doing? Kira was already coordinating. I'm sending them targeting data now. They're moving to surround the disabled Krill ships. The coalition vessels, unaffected by the pulse because they had stayed outside the magnetic field, moved in quickly. They positioned themselves around the helpless Krill fleet, weapons armed and ready. Hailing the Krill commander again, Mina said. The Krill commander's face reappeared on screen. This time his anger was mixed with shock. What have you done? Your weapons are disabled, Tay explained. Your engines will come back online in about 15 minutes. But by then you'll be completely surrounded. You have a choice. Leave peacefully, or find out if your shields can handle concentrated fire from 34 ships at point-blank range. The commander's mandibles clicked rapidly. This is treachery. You attacked us with an illegal weapon. We didn't destroy a single ship, Tay countered. We just leveled the playing field. Now you understand what it feels like to be outgunned. He leaned forward. But this doesn't have to end in bloodshed. Take your fleet and leave. Tell the Krill Dominion that Terran 4 is protected not by one empire, but by many species working together. Yura stepped into view beside Tai. And tell them that the Valorian Empire is willing to discuss a real peace treaty. One that doesn't involve conquest and threats. The Krill commander looked between them. His eyes darted to the screen showing his disabled fleet surrounded by armed enemies. The Dominion will hear of this, he said finally. Good, Kira said, moving into the screen. Make sure they hear about how 3 Valorian princesses and a human crew outsmarted your entire fleet. Maybe it will teach them some respect. The communication ended. On the screens, the krill ships began to power back up. But instead of attacking, they slowly began to retreat. One by one, they jumped to hyperspace and disappeared. The bridge was silent for a moment. Then Wu started laughing. Hana joined in. Soon everyone was celebrating. Tay looked at the three princesses. Nari was smiling, her pale scales almost glowing with pride. Kira was grinning widely, already probably replaying the battle in her mind. Yura stood straight and dignified, but Tay could see satisfaction in her eyes. "We did it," Nari said softly, as if she couldn't quite believe it. "You did it," Tay corrected. "Your fusion matrix made this possible. Kira's tactics got us through their formation," Nari protested, "and Yura's diplomacy brought the coalition together," Kira added. Yura looked at her sisters. "We all did this together." For a moment, the three princesses just looked at each other. Then, awkwardly at first, they moved together and embraced. It might have been the first time they had ever hugged, Tay realized. Messages started coming in from the coalition ships, congratulations and thanks. The people of Terran 4 sent their gratitude. Even some of the Valorian nobles who had accompanied them on the mission seemed impressed, but the most important message came from Empress Kira herself. Her hologram appeared on the bridge. She looked at her three daughters standing together, at the human crew who had fought beside them, at the tactical display showing the retreating krill fleet. "Return to the capital," she said. The journey back to the Valorian capital took 2 days. During that time, something remarkable happened on the horizon's edge. The three princesses, who had spent their lives separated by rivalry and the court's expectations, began to actually know each other. Tay found them in the common room late one night. Nari was explaining her fusion matrix to Yura, who asked surprisingly technical questions. Kira was showing them both a holographic replay of the battle, pointing out the exact moment when the plan had come together. "See here?" Kira said, highlighting a section. "When Hana made that turn, it was perfect. 1 second later and we would have missed the window. And the electromagnetic pulse spread exactly as Nari calculated," Yura added. She looked at her sister. "How did you know the planet's magnetic field would amplify it that way?" Nari's pale scales flushed with pleasure. "I've been studying planetary magnetic fields for years. No one ever asked about it before." "Well, I'm asking now," Yura said with a smile. "I want to understand." Later, Tai walked with Nari through the ship's corridors. She seemed different now, more confident. She still spoke softly, but she no longer hunched her shoulders or avoided eye contact. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what? For seeing me?" "Not the ugly princess. Just me." Nari stopped walking and turned to face him. "When you proposed marrying me, I thought you were being kind. Or maybe it was strategy. But then I saw how you worked with all of us. You really meant it." Tay took her hand gently. "I meant every word. You're brilliant and kind and beautiful." "I'm not beautiful," Nari said, but she was smiling. "You are to me, and more importantly, you're real. You're not pretending to be something you're not." Tay squeezed her hand. "I've fallen for you, Nari, not because of politics or duty, because of who you are." Nari's eyes glistened with tears. "I've never felt this way before. I didn't think anyone could see past my appearance. Your appearance is part of you, but it's not all of you. And yes, I find you beautiful. Your mind, your heart, your curiosity, your gentleness, all of it." They stood there in the corridor holding hands until Mina's voice came over the ship's comm. "Captain, we're approaching the capital. Time to get ready." The Horizon's Edge landed in the main palace port to find thousands of Valorians waiting. News of the victory at Terran 4 had spread quickly. The crowd cheered as the three princesses emerged from the ship. Lord Varric was there too, but he wasn't smiling. He looked angry and worried. "The Empress demands to see all of you immediately." They walked through the palace to the throne room. The halls were packed with nobles who whispered as they passed. Tay heard the words miracle and impossible repeated over and over. The throne room was even more crowded than before. Every important person in the Empire seemed to be there. Empress Kira sat on her throne, watching them approach with an expression Tay couldn't read. They stood before her. "Tay, his crew, and the three princesses. You saved Terran 4, the Empress said. Against overwhelming odds, you succeeded. The Empire is grateful." "Thank you, Your Majesty," Tay said. "However," the Empress continued, "Lord Varric has raised concerns. He believes you manipulated my daughters. That you used tricks and deception rather than true strategy. Lord Varric stepped forward, looking triumphant. Your Majesty, I must insist. Captain Tay has not fulfilled the original terms. He was to choose one daughter and marry her. Instead, he proposes to completely restructure our government. This is unacceptable, the crowd murmured in agreement. Several nobles nodded. Furthermore, Varric continued, he claims to choose Princess Nari out of genuine feeling, but we all know the truth. He chose her because she was the easiest path. The beautiful Princess Yura would be too difficult to control. The wild Princess Kira too unpredictable. He chose the weak one. Tay felt anger rising, but before he could speak, Nari stepped forward. I am not weak, she said. The crowd went silent. Princess Nari, who had never spoken publicly, who had always hidden in her laboratory, was speaking. Her voice was quiet but clear. I am not weak, she repeated. I am different. For years I believed that being different meant being less, that my appearance made me worthless. But Captain Tay showed me the truth. She looked at Tay, then at her sisters, then at the assembled court. He showed me that my worth comes from what I can do, not how I look. My fusion matrix saved Terran 4. My calculations made the plan work. I did that. The ugly princess did that. Kira stepped up beside her sister. And I'm not just a wild warrior who embarrasses the court. I'm a military strategist. My tactics defeated a fleet of 200 ships with one small vessel. Maybe if the council had listened to my warnings about the krill months ago, we wouldn't have needed a desperate plan. Now Yura joined them, and I am not just a beautiful ornament. Yes, I'm lovely. I've been trained to be perfect since childhood. But I'm also a master diplomat. I built a coalition of 11 species in 3 hours. That wasn't my beauty. That was my skill. The 3 princesses stood together, united for the first time. The court stared in shock. Captain Tay didn't manipulate us, Yura continued. He respected us. He saw our individual strengths and showed us how to use them together. That's what a good leader does. Lord Varric's face turned red. This is outrageous. Your Majesty, they are being disrespectful to the court. Silence, Varric. The Empress's voice cut through the room like a blade. She stood up from her throne and walked down to stand before her daughters. For a long moment, she just looked at them. Then, to everyone's surprise, she smiled. Do you know why I issued this challenge? She asked Tay. To test humanity's wisdom? Tay guessed, partially. But more than that, I needed to test my daughters. Or rather, I needed them to test themselves. The Empress looked at each of her daughters in turn. For years, I watched you brilliant, talented women hide your light. Yura, you became a prisoner of perfection. Nari, you hid in your laboratory. Kira, you let them call you wild and undisciplined when you have the mind of a general. She turned to the court, and I watched this court enable it. You praised Yura's beauty but ignored her intelligence. You dismissed Nari because of her appearance. You laughed at Kira's passion instead of respecting her expertise. You wasted the talents of 3 extraordinary women. Lord Varric started to speak, but the Empress silenced him with a look. I knew that no Valorian suitor would see their true worth. Our culture is too set in its ways. So I looked to the stars. To a species young enough to still value substance over surface. To humanity. She turned back to Tay. Captain Tay, you did exactly what I hoped. You saw my daughters as people, not as categories. You showed them their own strength. And you proposed a solution that our empire, with all its centuries of tradition, was too rigid to imagine. The Empress raised her voice so the entire court could hear. I hereby dissolve the old succession law. From this day forward, the empire will be led by a council of 3. Princess Yura will serve as diplomatic chancellor, handling all relations with other species. Princess Nari will serve as science chancellor, leading our technological advancement. Princess Kira will serve as military chancellor, commanding our defense forces. The court erupted into shocked whispers, but the Empress wasn't finished. Furthermore, I approve the marriage between Captain Tay and Princess Nari. Their union will symbolize the alliance between Valorian and Earth, and it will remind us all that wisdom and character matter more than appearance. She looked directly at Lord Varric. As for you, Varric, you have spent years undermining my daughters, spreading rumors about Nari's ugliness, encouraging the court to mock Kira, ensuring that Yura remained dependent on perfection serums. You thought that by weakening them, you could seize power during the succession crisis. Varric's purple scales paled. Your Majesty, you are exiled. You have 1 day to leave Valorian space. If you return, you will be imprisoned. Guards stepped forward and escorted a protesting Varric from the room. The Empress turned back to her daughters. You have proven yourselves. Not just to me, but to yourselves. That was always the real test. She addressed the court one final time. Let this be a lesson to all. Strength comes in many forms. Beauty without substance is hollow. Tradition without wisdom is stagnant. From this day forward, the Valorian Empire will value what people can do, not just how they appear. The court slowly began to applaud. It started hesitantly, but grew louder and more enthusiastic. The three princesses stood together, holding hands as their people celebrated them for the first time not as beautiful, ugly, or wild, but as brilliant leaders. Tai caught Nari's eye and smiled. She smiled back, tears streaming down her face. Happy tears. The Empress approached Tay privately as the celebration continued. You did well, Captain. You gave my empire exactly what it needed, change. Thank you, Your Majesty. But your daughters did all the real work. They did, the Empress agreed. But sometimes people need someone to believe in them before they can believe in themselves. You gave them that gift. She paused. There is one more thing. As the consort to a chancellor, you will have significant influence in the empire. Use it wisely. I will, Your Majesty. As the formal 6 months had passed since the Battle of Terran IV, and the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted, Tay stood in what had once been a simple laboratory in the lower levels of the palace. Now it was the headquarters of the Science Chancellorship with Nari at its center. Screens covered the walls showing research projects across the empire. Scientists from 100 worlds worked together on innovations that would have seemed impossible just months ago. Nari was in the middle of it all, coordinating efforts, solving problems, and pushing the boundaries of what Valorian science could achieve. She still spoke quietly, but now everyone listened when she did. The new fusion reactors are online in 15 colonies, she told Tay, showing him a holographic map. Energy efficiency is up 92%. We're sharing the technology with Earth's colonies too. Earth's engineers are amazed, Tay said with pride. They're already suggesting improvements. Wu says the collaborative approach is creating innovations faster than either species could alone. Nari smiled. The nervousness that had once defined her was gone, replaced by quiet confidence. She was still the same gentle person, but now she knew her own worth. That's what happens when you combine different perspectives. Everyone benefits, she took his hand. Speaking of which, are you ready for tonight? Tonight was their wedding. After months of preparation, negotiations between Earth and Valorian customs, and countless diplomatic considerations, they were finally going to be married. I've been ready since the first time we talked in your lab, Tay said, when you got excited explaining your equations and forgot to be nervous. That's when I knew. Nari blushed, her pale scales turning a soft pink. I still can't believe this is real sometimes. That I'm marrying you. That I'm a chancellor. That people actually listen to my ideas. Believe it. You earned all of it. They walked through the palace together. Everything had changed here too. The rigid hierarchy that had once defined every interaction was loosening. Scientists, soldiers, and diplomats mixed freely. Innovation was valued as much as tradition. The empire was transforming. In the diplomatic chancellorship, Yura was meeting with ambassadors from 7 different species. She had stopped taking the perfection serums months ago, and the change in her was remarkable. She was still beautiful, but now her beauty came from within, from confidence and genuine happiness rather than chemical enforcement. The trade agreements are almost finalized, she told Tay when he stopped by. Earth will have full access to Valorian markets, and our merchants can operate in human space. It's the most comprehensive alliance either species has ever signed. You made it happen, Tay said. Yura shook her head. We all made it happen. That's the point of the Council of Three. We work together. She smiled. I'm actually meeting with Nari and Kira later to coordinate our approaches. Nari's technology-sharing programs need diplomatic frameworks. Kira's military alliances need trade routes to support them. Everything connects. That's brilliant, Tay said. It's different, Yura corrected. But different is good. I spent so many years trying to be perfect, trying to be what everyone expected. Now I can just be effective. It's so much better. In the military chancellorship, Kira was training a new generation of Valorian officers. The rigid traditional tactics had been replaced with flexible, innovative strategies. She had incorporated lessons from human military history. showing her students how smaller forces could defeat larger ones through intelligence and creativity. Captain Tay, she called when she saw him. She finished demonstrating a combat technique to her students, then jogged over. Ready for the big day? As ready as I'll ever be. Nari's lucky to have you. And you're lucky to have her. Kira's grin was wide and genuine. You know what the best part is? The Krill Dominion has requested formal peace negotiations. They're actually scared of us now, scared of what we can do when we work together. Your military reforms have been noticed across the galaxy, Tay observed. Yeah, and half the Empire's generals still think I'm too wild and undisciplined. Kira laughed. But the other half have seen the results. Victory tends to silence critics, she became more serious. The defensive network we've built with Earth's colonies is the strongest in this sector. If the Krill try anything again, they'll regret it. That evening, the wedding took place in the palace gardens. It was a ceremony that blended Earth and Valorian traditions, symbolizing the union of two species as much as two people. Thousands attended. Humans from Earth's colonies, Valorians from across the Empire, representatives from the coalition species who had helped at Terran 4. It was the largest gathering the palace had ever seen. Tay's crew stood with him as his groomsmen. Hana, who had been promoted to ambassador to the Valorian Empire, stood proudly in her new formal uniform. Wu, now leading the joint engineering course, smiled widely. Mina, who had helped draft the Alliance Charter, had tears in her eyes. When Nari entered, walking with her mother, the Empress, the crowd fell silent. She wore a dress that combined human and Valorian styles, and she looked radiant, not because of perfect beauty, but because of pure happiness. They stood before an officiant who represented both species. The vows they exchanged were simple but heartfelt. I promise to see you, Tay said. All of you. Your brilliance, your kindness, your strength. I promise to support your dreams and share your burdens. I promise to choose you every day for all my days. Nari's voice was steady and clear. I promise to trust you, to let you see me even when I'm scared. I promise to share my thoughts and my heart. I promise to build a future with you, combining the best of both our worlds. When they kissed, the crowd erupted in cheers that echoed across the city. The celebration afterward was joyous. Music from Earth and Valoria blended together. Food from dozens of worlds was served. Species that had never worked together before now danced and laughed as friends. Tay found a quiet moment with his new sisters-in-law. Yura, Nari, and Kira stood together watching the celebration. Your mother planned all of this, Tay said to them. She knew exactly what would happen. She gave us a chance, Yura said. That's all. We had to take it. We never would have without you, Nari added, taking Tay's hand. You showed us that we were stronger together. Kira raised a glass. To the human who changed everything, to my new brother. They toasted together, and Tay felt overwhelmed with gratitude. 6 months ago, he had been a simple captain on a trade mission. Now he was part of a family that was reshaping the galaxy. Later, Tay and Nari stood on a balcony overlooking the city. In the distance, they could see Earth rising over the horizon, a blue and white sphere among the stars. I never imagined this, Nari said softly. When I was hiding in my laboratory, convinced I was worthless because of how I looked, I never dreamed I could be happy. That I could matter. That I could love and be loved. You always mattered, Tay said. I just helped you see it. You did more than that. You changed an empire. You showed us that the old ways were holding us back. That tradition without progress is stagnation. She leaned against him. Earth is so young compared to Valoria. You've only been in space for a few generations. But you see possibilities we've forgotten how to imagine. And Valoria has wisdom and resources that Earth desperately needs. Together, we're stronger than either species alone. A message appeared on Tay's communication device. He smiled when he read it. What is it? Nari asked. The Krill Dominion. They're formally requesting peace negotiations. They want to discuss mutual borders and trade agreements instead of conquest. Because they're afraid? Because they're smart. They saw what happened at Terran 4. They saw how the coalition came together. They realized that the galaxy is changing. Species that work together are too strong to fight. Nari looked up at the stars. Do you think it will last? This peace we're building? I think it has a better chance than ever before. Not because of military might or political maneuvering, but because we're proving that cooperation works. That diversity makes us stronger. That seeing people for who they really are, instead of what we expect them to be, creates opportunities we never knew existed. From inside, they heard music and laughter. The celebration was still going strong. 3 chancellors, human and Valorian crews, representatives from across the galaxy, all working together to build something new. Empress Kira found them on the balcony. She looked tired but satisfied. "I wanted to tell you both something," she said. "What you've started here will echo through generations, not just in our empire but across the galaxy." "We just did what needed to be done," Tay said. "Exactly. And that's what makes you special. You didn't see an impossible problem. You saw people with potential." She looked at her daughter. "Nari, I'm proud of you. Of all my daughters, you've exceeded every hope I had." "Thank you, Mother." The Empress left them alone again, returning to the celebration. Tay and Nari stood together, holding hands, watching Earth and Valoria share the same sky. "What do you think happens next?" Nari asked. "Anything we want. We've proven that humans and Valorians can work together. That brilliant minds can come from anywhere. That strength takes many forms.